Alright, so working on modes can actually be kind of fun. That's what we're going to talk about today, especially the dark modes. This is going to feed right into some of the other things that I've mentioned in a number of other videos with understanding the chord scale and the double stops and the way those thoughts really rest on the shape of the major scale. I'm Wayne Benson. Welcome to Wayne's World of Mandolin. I'm going to talk about these modes today using the F scale, and I'm going to break that down in first position. I did this earlier with the G scale as part of an interval exercise video that I did. One by one, I want to try to get to each of the scales in first position. Especially, I like starting with these that are so symmetrical and so easy as far as memorization is concerned. If we listen to what I was just playing, it was G minor. That's the F major scale. If I start on the F note, then it's going to land on our ear or fall on our ear in that particular sound of an F chord. But this scale, if we learned it in first position, that's the lowest F note that we have on our mandolin. We have the same note here, which visually even makes it that much more eye-opening. Look at all of these notes that are lower than this one. We don't want to shortchange ourselves and not play those notes. So these would also happen as well. Third fret of the D string, that's an F. Second fret, E note, open D. Then the C note on the fifth fret of the G, B flat at the third fret, second fret A, then an open G. So we can hear that F scale like it's begging you to play it in G minor. And what's a bigger deal than that is the shape of this. It's just like the G scale and several others. The fretboard looks like you've split it right down the middle. The top half is open, 2, 3, 5. The bottom, D strings, open, 2, 3, 5. So we have those two pairs of strings, the top half of the mandolin, with that particular fingering, open, 2, 3, 5. Now we go to the bottom half. We're going to have open, 1, 3, 5, open, 1, 3, 5. Look at the fingering and how balanced that is and how easy it is to commit it to memory. Pretty slick the way that's working. It's actually easier to remember than if we were just trying to commit that shape to memory, and we need all of these other intervals as well. So here's what would be a great thing to do. If you could go to that G or interval exercise in first position, the same exact things that we did with G, and so on. We want to do that with the F scale now. You can hear what's going to happen with that. That second mode that I played, starting on an A note, now that's a really colorful sound that we're playing now. The reason for that, I'm going from the A to the B flat note. A minor would be the third chord of the F chord scale. We've talked about this too. Some of this is just kind of a run through at this point, but if we play that major scale, then we have to realize those notes, even if we're only playing a single note, they would represent F major, 2, 2 is minor, so that's G minor. 3 is minor, that's A minor. And then 4 is major, B flat major. 5 is major, so that's actually a C major. 6 is our relative minor, that's D minor. E is half diminished. And then we're back to the root note of F. So as I play that scale, I should be able to single out that third interval, that's going to be a minor interval of the chord. If I was playing the chord scale, F, G minor, A minor, that's how I know that I can play that particular mode. It's a very dark sound. And you might be thinking, well, I'm never going to be a part of anything that really requires that particular color that we're playing right now. And really the big deal here is that by pushing on into something like this that you might not even use, it could help you to have an understanding of how the modes work, and the way the chord scale coming together like this is all about shifting the tonal center of that scale. But that particular mode might be considered, of these 3 minor modes that we're finding in this chord scale, the least practical. We talked about the G, because it's the first note of the scale. And that's kind of what I was just having fun with. That second double stop, now we're adding another layer to the scale. If we had those 2 notes, I'm playing here a whole double stop scale, and I'm actually using that second interval, which is the G minor. I'm making a big deal out of that one, or it's becoming the tonal center. So again, you want to learn those shapes. This is, again, something that's really easy about F on your mandolin, starting here, and we see these 8 shapes. Very symmetrical, 8 shapes that are exact same, stacked on top of each other. And once I get here to that high F, I can start over and do the same thing. So this can really help you begin to cover territory on your mandolin if you're working from one space to the other. I'll demonstrate that with what would be the most commonly used mode of the F scale, arguably would be a D minor chord, which is the 6th chord. Let's count the intervals. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. It's a D note. There's that shape. If we counted the double stops, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Now let's listen to the scale in first position. We've heard that sound plenty of times. There you go. So you can see why it's important to play those intervals of 3. Those exercises matter for that reason, so that when we use these scales for more than just the root chord that we associate them with, and we begin to shift into different modes, those exercises are going to feel like they're benefiting us in a far greater way than if we never learn anything about this. So now, back to the double stops and the way that they spread over the fretboard the way they do. If I'm playing D, let's say I'm playing a D minor, is that arpeggio or a blues scale? I just use those F double stops because I know it's... Now I'm back to a high position of the D blues scale. There was a little bridge only used 3 of those intervals to connect, to make that part of the fretboard come together. Things like this are going to feel somewhat awkward when you first start trying to do it, but what you don't want to do is reduce it to a lick with those 3 shapes. You need to practice. And you could do what I was and make it fun. Come up with something fun like that, because rehearsing this, I don't want you to think that it's something that you're bored with or that you don't enjoy. So make it musical and kind of bouncy. And then little by little, what happens is that you kind of forget about all this and the process of going through it. You just develop a connection to the fretboard that when you move from one double stop position to the next, you're going to know how that sounds. So at the same time that we're working on this in first position, thinking of it as a scale, we want to also move the double stops around on the fretboard. Learn where they repeat. This is a big thing too, because see, I have this entire stretch of the fretboard here. When I'm playing those shapes, those exact same sounds for F, G minor, A minor, B flat, I don't want to think that this is the only place. So as I'm practicing that, I could play down the scale, starting on this F, all on the E and the A strings. So for lack of a better way to put it, you don't want to have dead spots on your fretboard where you actually lose the memorization of this scale, because at this point we are memorizing where these sounds are. But again, big picture, if you will drag yourself through this for like maybe 4 different key signatures, by the time you've done that, you pretty much are going to be developed as far as a connection to the fretboard with double stops. Beyond just what we discover learning tunes or a lick here and there, you really want to know that information all over the fretboard, and it's going to feed into an understanding of all of the modes. But especially today, this is just kind of about the dark mode. And that if we're playing in the key of F, we could actually use, or the F scale, to play over G minor, A minor, and D minor. And that's because it's the 2, the second chord of the chord scale. The 3 is also minor in the chord scale. And of course the 6. So I hope you enjoy the video. If you do, please like it and subscribe to the channel and have fun goofing off with these modes. I sure do.